Hello everyone, it is the Dinglemancer here, and today I have another devlog for you. It's been a while since the last devlog, so I really needed to get this one out there. If you haven't seen any of my previous devlogs, then I just wanted to let you know that I'm making a game for GameCube using my own game engine. Now, last time I said I wanted to complete my game within the next 2 months. Well, I'm happy to say that I mostly did that. The game is pretty much feature complete and it has all the content, but I still need to fix bugs, I need to add more polish, and I still need to get people to playtest the game and make improvements based on their suggestions. So if you just want to go ahead and play the game, there's a link in the description to an itch.io page that I created. And also I finally created a Discord server for Octave, which is my game engine. And of course, if you have feedback to give from playtesting the game, you can put it in that Discord server and I would appreciate that. And I just want to give a little disclaimer before I start with the rest of the devlog that I've been working on this full time for the past year. Actually, last October is when I left my job to work on this full time. And there is just no way I could have made this much progress without going full time. I'm kind of a slower engineer, and like I've said before, I really suck at art and music. Obviously, that's still apparent, but even just the time commitment it takes to make that stuff, even though it looks bad, is still a lot. But yeah, I just wanted to say that just so people know that I'm not working on this in my spare time. I could probably make a whole video talking about if the decision to go full-time was worth it, and if I regretted it or anything. I mean, the short answer is no, I don't regret it, but let's see if I can find a job first before saying that. Okay, so let's get into the things that I worked on since the last update. So the first thing that I worked on was adding a bunch of spells, and now there are a total of 60 spells in the game. And while I was implementing these spells, I introduced the ability for spells to have cast times on them. So the way that works is that once you play a spell with a cast time, you have to wait until the battle phase until it actually triggers once enough time has elapsed. These spell cards with cast times are differentiated from the regular spell cards by a purple background on the card compared to the normal bluish background on a regular spell card. After adding all the new spells, I added new monster variants. So these are basically just recolors of the monsters I already had in the game with different abilities and different stats. And in total I have 41 monsters, so that brings the total card count to 101 cards, just like Dalmatians. And I think that's a decent starting point for the game, to be able to make some interesting deck compositions. And after this, I decided to experiment with the game mechanics a little bit. And one of those changes is that now in the draw phase, you draw enough cards to replenish your hand back to a count of 5 cards. And I made this change just to give the player more options every round, and so that they won't be afraid to use cards. And I added a new resource called Soul, which is used to play monster cards, versus Mana, which is used to play spell cards. And this change was so that you don't really have to choose between monsters and spells. Instead, you're encouraged to use both, and you're kind of penalized if you only put monsters in your deck. And the last big change is that the Nexus, which I'm now calling the Life Crystal, can only take 40 damage in a round, and once it exceeds 40 damage, then it turns black and becomes immune to damage, except on round 10, which is the final round. And this change makes it so that you can't just get thwomped in one turn, you actually have a chance to fight back. Overall, I'm really happy with these changes, and I think it makes the game more exciting and fun. And so now that we had all the spells and all the monsters in the game, I wanted to make some more levels, because I was kind of getting sick of looking at the square space level that I already had. So for my sake and for the players that may play this game, I wanted to add some more levels. So I added 5 new levels. The first one is a beach level that has 3 islands that are connected with some little bridges, and there's a single neutral monster spawn that can be captured at the top of the map. The next level is a pool room style level, and nothing too special about this one. There's also 1 neutral monster spawn that can be captured on the bottom right of the map. The third level that I added was a foresty level, and it has 2 neutral monster spawns and some pretty open space in the middle. The fourth level is a cave level that has a single neutral monster spawn, and it's designed so that pathway with the neutral monster spawn is actually a fast path between the 2 life crystals. And the final level is a desert level with a single neutral spawn in the middle of the map that is surrounded by like 2 semicircles that kind of enclose it. So yeah, I think these new maps will provide some more variety to the players, so they're not just staring at the same old map. And they also do provide different gameplay scenarios where you might want to construct your deck differently. Like for instance, on the desert level, I originally had a bot that was using very long-range monsters that attack from a distance, and it was supposed to be challenging, but because of the design of the map, they couldn't really take advantage of their range, so I had to switch them over to a different environment to make it more challenging. And so now I had all the monsters, all the spells, all the levels for the game, and now I just needed a way to put them all together. So for the single player mode of this game, I added an overworld where the player will travel between different levels, and it's just to add some eye candy kind of, and to give you a sense of progression as you're beating these different bots. But yeah, really it's just a Candy Crush style progression system. And so after that, I added a new title screen to the game, and as you can see here, I'm calling the game RNG Monsters, so please don't laugh, it's a really stupid name, but yeah, it's just RNG Monsters, but kind of like spelled out. And it's called that, of course, because the game has so much RNG, or random number generation, in it, and that is a big part of the game, so that's kind of why I incorporated that into the title of the game. But yeah, at least that way it's kind of clear and upfront that this game, it has a lot of randomness to it, and it's definitely not like a competitive card game, really. And the title screen changes slightly after you beat the single player mode of the game, just as a little treat to reward the player. And so along with creating the main menu level, I also went ahead and added an options menu, and like a how to play and a controls section, and also slightly redid the way that you create and join net matches. Now you can actually select which match you want to join if there are multiple matches being hosted on your LAN. But yeah, it's starting to become more of a finished game now. But the big thing I needed to do next was to add controls for mouse and keyboard and Android. So I realized as I was making the game that it's actually a really good candidate for a mobile game, so that is part of the reason why I ported it over to Android. And I'm also thinking of Android as more of a first-class platform now, like GameCube, as opposed to Windows and Linux. And yeah, getting the touch controls / mouse controls working wasn't too bad. It was kind of a pain adding buttons into the interfaces and stuff, but making the panning and zooming touch features was actually a lot of fun, and it feels really good when you're using it, I think. And this is also when I added the ability to toggle a dynamic camera mode in the game, so that you can just click a little camera button on the bottom left, and then during battle the camera will automatically move around for you based on the position of all the monsters. It's not the best right now, sometimes monsters will get cut off slightly, but it's a lot better than me moving the camera around manually, so I usually have it turned on. I integrated the how to play page that is found in the menu into the first level of the game to serve as some sort of tutorial. And lastly, I made 2 new songs for the game that play during battles. And of course, since I'm using my own game engine, while I'm working on all this stuff, I had to fix bugs and I had to add some new features that I needed. And one of those things is support for full screen mode, and I added borderless full screen mode, not like the exclusive full screen because it's kind of clunky. I needed to add soft keyboard support on Android so that when you enter your player name, you don't need to connect a keyboard to your device. For being able to detect where the player is touching the screen to see if like they're touching a monster or if they're putting their area spell that they want to play, I needed a way to convert screen space coordinates into their world positions, and so I added some functions relating to that. And although I haven't really had the need for it yet, I also added the ability to hide the cursor, lock the cursor, and trap the cursor. So by locking the cursor, it just always stays centered in the screen, and if you trap the cursor, it will stay confined to the area of the window itself. I was thinking, I'm still probably going to do this, but I want to add like League of Legends style controls where if you put your mouse over on the edge of the window, it pans the camera that way, or I guess I should say RTS, that wasn't really a League of Legends thing. Right now when you're playing the game on PC, you have to move the camera like you would on Android where you click and drag, so I will change that eventually. And the last engine change I wanted to talk about was just adding support for copying and pasting, which on Windows wasn't too bad. I mean, it was a little more complex than I thought it would be, but on Linux, it was much more difficult to implement. And part of that is because I was using XCB for my windowing. In hindsight, I probably should have just used SDL on Windows and Linux for the window management. But at least I should have probably gone with just the standard old xlib library, because there's just a lot more uses of that, a lot more examples I can find on the internet. And in the end, I was able to figure out how to translate a lot of stuff over to XCB. But still, it actually took me like a day to get copy and pasting working on Linux. And the sad thing is that even after doing all that, whenever you paste something into another application, not into the game editor, it takes like half a second for the paste to happen. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I feel like I'm flushing everything that needs to be flushed and using the API correctly, but apparently not, because it takes a long time to paste. And like 0.5 seconds doesn't sound long, but like when you actually do it, yeah, it feels really bad. But yeah, rant over. Let's move on to how you can play the game and how you can give me feedback if you want. So I've uploaded the game to itch.io in early access mode, and from there you can download the game for Android, Windows, and Linux. And you can either go to the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen right now. And if you'd like to give me some feedback on the game, you can head over to the Octave Discord, and the link for that will be in the description also. And so now that the game is somewhat finished on Windows, Android, and Linux, now is the time to actually get it working on GameCube. And the first step is to get it running on Wii, because Wii is basically a more powerful GameCube with more memory. And as you can see here, it is running on Wii, and there are some problems though. So for the next video, I will be fixing the Wii and the whatever rendering and other issues it has, and then I'll move on to getting the game running on GameCube. And I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And so for this next video, I'm going to film it more like a traditional devlog, where I show my steps along the way and go over all the problems I encounter, because I imagine there will be a lot of problems. So anyway, if you're interested in that, consider subscribing. And also, if you want and you enjoyed the video, give the video a like. And yes, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.